Will there be a light on the camera? So we know.
Hello, Calaveras County. I'm Mike Taylor, and welcome to the Public Access Television Studio debate for the District 3 Supervisor's race here in Calaveras County. With me is Merita Callaway, the challenger, and Michael Oliveira, the incumbent. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome.
And I think we will start with opening comments. And Merita, what would you like to start us out with?
Well, I'd like to thank Calaveras Community TV for filming this and showing it to the residents of the county. I think it's a great service. Because of my past experience, I'm frequently asked, well, Merita, what do you see as the challenges facing the Board of Supervisors? The 5 districts each have their own issues and challenges, which I call constituent concerns. So what might be good in Copperopolis isn't in San Andreas. What might be right in Burson isn't in Glencoe. And you move to District 3, our unique communities also have their own challenges. What might be good for Arnold might not match for Murphy's, and what might be on Avery's to-do list doesn't melt with Vallecito's agenda. So it's important that the supervisor be part of the communities that she's supervising, so when issues come up, she'll know how to address them. However, the issue of infrastructure is the same across the county, and be it roads, land use, emergency services, public safety, these are things that are important to all of them, in addition to the board being judicious in their funding, that they know how to budget money for all the needs of the county. And the one that keeps cropping up is cannabis, of course, but I'm looking forward to the questions that our moderator might ask.
Thank you, Merita. Mr. Oliveira.
Thank you, Michael. I'd also like to thank Public Access TV here in Calaveras County. They do a fine job. I've been a supervisor for about 3.5 years, going on 4. During that short time, and I say short time, we've experienced a lot of good things and sometimes some bad things. We've come through those bad times. We have a ways to go. But let's talk about what we've done in the last 3 years. We've overcome catastrophes and fires, storm damage. Our economic situation has improved. We've been recouping from a period of downsizing, if you will, and budget cuts, things of that sort over the last 10, 15 years. And now we're starting on the way back. I'm very glad to be part of that journey. But that journey just started. We have a ways to go, and I'm dedicated to make sure that we complete that journey. And we're going to be there at the end together. Not 5 districts, but 1 county. But most importantly, Merita was right. We do have to pay attention to our District 3. That's my priority, but I also represent the entire county. Mike.
Thank you. You both kind of mentioned that we've, in the county, gone through some goods and some bads. District 2 ravaged by the Butte fire, and we saw that was sort of the beginning, I'll suggest, of where we noticed that so many trees were dying in the county, and then tree mortality cropped up. And District 3 has really been hit hard by dead trees. where do you both, and I know with Michael as the incumbent, he's kind of sitting there and maybe knowing a little bit more than Merita and maybe not. But what I want to ask is, where do we stand? Where are we going? And how is this not going to bankrupt residents who have too many dead trees on their property? Merita?
Well, you're right. Michael's been more involved in it on a daily basis. There's programs available when you go to the county website and you look at the types of funding that could be available to help homeowners. PG&E has a program, and I know the county, they have a sign across the highway saying, if you want help, please call this number. So I think there's options out there, but people are somewhat reluctant to have an agency government come on to their property, but it's for the best of the community. And Michael can probably answer better because he's somewhat more involved. I just know, having been involved in this issue and has taken other places like up the corridor where we had to do a lot of trimming. We had to do a lot of trimming for snow removal. I remember we trimmed in Meadowmont, and people really wanted the trees trimmed and the road trimmed. And then all of a sudden people said, but people can see me now. So, do you trim for safety purposes, or do you just sort of let it be? And I don't think we let it be. I think the county and PG&E and the agencies involved are doing a fine job.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I do have to claim I do have a little bit of an advantage being involved. I actually represent Calaveras County on the Governor's Task Force for Tree Mortality. This is a result of our bark beetle infestation, which happens all the time. Unfortunately, this last cycle, our drought attributed to that, over 1 million trees in our national forest just surrounding our areas have been lost. We determined that we need to develop that task force to address this problem. In the 2.5 years this task force has been in effect, we have secured that help. It started with 6 counties. Calaveras entered into that group, if you will, making it 10 counties, which now have 14 high-risk counties. We were able, through government agencies and funding, through other entities, to attack this problem, get those trees down that are dead, because that develops our fire hazards. We're pretty good. We're in pretty good shape for public entities. The private property owners face another dilemma, and that's been very expensive for them, because there wasn't a funding source to help them with these trees. I had constituents that were getting bids of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to remove trees. And in Calaveras County, those are fixed income in some cases. We were able to provide some CDAA funding, and through our homeowners associations, through our special districts, through some government agencies, we were able to help them a little bit. But the battle's not over. We have our next flight coming in. We're hopeful that our trees are in a state that they can fend off the natural enemy of the bark beetle. Thank you, Mike.
You bet. Well, you both kind of touched on it in your opening remarks, and now I really want to kind of dig into this. The county, as far as a regular citizen sitting out, working in the public sector, not working in government, we don't get raises every single year, yet somehow folks in government believe that they're due a raise every year, and those of us in the private sector, we kind of frown about that most often. But we do understand that services are being provided. Where I'm going with this is Calaveras County is right teetering on a bubble. Are we making it financially? Are we not? So what I'd like to hear from you, and we may pursue this in some other questions too, is what is the future of Calaveras County financially, and where are we going to need to make reductions? You have employees that want raises, and now you have department heads that want 5%. So that money's got to come from somewhere, and we had to pull about $9 million out of contingency funds to balance the budget this year. So where are we going? Mike?
Mike, let's correct some facts here. I feel that we have a problem in our budget. We have a problem financially in Calaveras County. You mentioned pulling $9 million to balance the budget. That didn't come from the contingency fund. That came from Proposition C taxes that was voted on in 2016 under the marijuana cultivation. As you may recall, we received about $3.7 million on the application fees. Then we had about $12.4 million collected on the first tax session. We used $3 million of that to balance our budget from the previous year. $9 million was used to supplement the budget this year. I was in disagreement with that. I believe that money should have been held because we have pending lawsuits, litigation, $16.4 million. We just got served about 4 weeks ago. And that battle's not over yet. And ironically, in our last budget session, in our preliminary session, it was announced by our board chair, Supervisor Tofanelli, and our CAO, Tim Lutz, that we had to provide additional 5% cutting across the board for all. Mm-hmm. This is something we did in prior years, and we never were able to recoup from that. We have a problem in our economy here in this county. We're going to have to be very wise where we spend our money. And we have to plan for the future. And right now, with those issues facing us, we have to be frugal in what we do and make sure that we can be sustainable for the next 5 to 10 years. How do we do that? We're going to find out. We're going to find out. We have several issues. We have issues in compensation for our public safety. We have issues for our department heads. You mentioned that. We have issues for our county employees. We were able to negotiate good salary increases, but the department heads is another story. We'll be discussing that next board meeting.
Okay. Merita?
I've been through many economic cycles with the county. I really have to say I support the departments. When they've had to bite it, they bite the bullet. They've come up with cuts, whether it's 5%, 2%, or a flat budget. I do not see the doom and gloom that Michael does. I think that's somewhat more of a fear factor. In reading the budget memo, there was $9 million in carryover, which was used to balance. There is one-time money that is being used for one-time projects, such as demolition of the jail, architectural drawings, and so forth for the DA's office. But I also think we need to be competitive for the employees of the county, because turnover costs the county money. And I understand, having owned my own business and working in the private sector, we always think, oh, government's always getting money. But our employees, soon to be my employees, have gone without pay cuts. They've gone with no changes in their benefit package. And as a supervisor, when we started cutting the employees, I donated back, as I think other elected officials did. So I really believe that the management staff of the county will keep us whole, whatever whole looks like, however it's defined. I don't see the doom and gloom.
Toward revenues, we have an increase in the TOT, the transient occupancy tax, on the ballot this November. What do you each see as kind of coming out of that? Is that the beginning of here comes some additional taxes to support the county? and talk a little bit about how those funds from the TOT are divided and how you feel the fairness issues kind of go with that. And we'll start this time with Merita.
Okay. The TOT, it's on the ballot, and I support it being on the ballot. I believe that we, the board, needs to go out and campaign for it. It sometimes will be looked at as a tax, and that sort of gets people upset. We don't want a tax no matter who pays for it. I don't think that the breakdown that the board did this year is appropriate. The TOT, Transit Occupancy Tax, was set up in the state of California to pay to encourage tourism. And I strongly believe that at least a third of that money belongs to the Visitors Bureau. They're the ones that bring the visitors to our county who will pay for it. Plus, thanks to the work of the treasurer, I believe we now collect money from Airbnbs. So, yeah, I support the TOT. I would probably divide it differently than the board did. You look at what are the services that the tourists require, and that could be anything from a mental health service to roads to services that are provided from different departments in the general fund. So I like the third concept.
Okay. Mr. Oliveira.
Thank you, Michael. TOT issue has been one that I spearheaded for the increase that's on the ballot now, along with Supervisor Clapp. We were on a committee to put that program together. Unfortunately, Merita was incorrect. We can't campaign for a ballot issue as a county when we institute that issue. We can educate the folks for a voting purpose. We can't go out and actively campaign for it. Our TOT tax covers what we expend in services for our visitors to our county. That is our infrastructure, our roads, our public safety, our fire and police, and sheriff's department. I agree with the Visitors Bureau, because if you look at it, it completes the circle. Getting our visitors to our county by the way of our infrastructure, but to get them in their cars and drive up here, we need to have the advertising or marketing of the Visitors Bureau. And once they're here, we have to provide a safe county for them to recreate in. That's where our calls for service from our fire departments, our rescue, search and rescue facilities of the Sheriff's Department, our law enforcement, our traffic safety with CHP. It's a good thing. We were at 6% for a long, long time. And when we enacted the tot tax back 10, 15 years ago, it was going to go to 3 different areas. But suddenly, we found that going to different areas. The TOT, I wanted to go to designated areas, but unfortunately, to have a majority vote on the ballot, it's going to go to the general fund and be dispersed through the Board of Supervisors' recommendation and decision when those budget times come up. I also support the TOT. I think this county deserves the 10%. Our surrounding counties are 10 to 12%. We need to come up to the 21st century.
Okay. Also on kind of revenue and expenditures now, you both spoke of it. How do folks get here? They have to drive here. And the state of California is spending a ton of money this year on roads, that is, on the state highways in the county. But it seems like we're not quite keeping up as well as we could with our county roads. There's some pretty big potholes out there on some of them. And I know our road department is stretched thin, but I'd like you both to kind of address how does the road department keep up with how much that part of the county's infrastructure costs. Mike?
Thank you, Michael. The sad part of that question is we haven't kept up. And now we're paying that price. We haven't done our maintenance programs over the last 15 years, And now we're not into maintenance, we're into replacement. Repair is now replacement, and that's very expensive. Now, we're going to be able to have some help through SB 1, which is the state transportation tax, $52.9 billion over 10 years. And who's going to pay for that? Well, folks, you're going to pay for that. You're seeing that already in your gas tax increase of 17 cents. You're seeing that in your vehicle registration. Is that the way to do it? Well, I also have concerns about where that money's going to go. If you look at SB 1 and you find out that there are carve-out situations, $200 million going to education, what happened to the lottery on that? Well, I keep asking that question. How much of that is going to hit our counties? Well, we're going to get a share. We have to use that money to build our county roads back to at least being passable. In District 3, we have some great roads, and we have some very difficult roads. Sheep Ranch Road right now, we've potholed that to death. We just can't fix it anymore. I would say 10% of my inquiries or emails are about Sheep Ranch Road and Moran Road. How are we going to widen it? When are we going to fix it? I can't tell you that. A $20 million project, rough estimate, just for Moran Road, to widen it, acquiring the property, taking the trees out, widening it out. And that's something we really need in case we have another forest fire, which we are going to have. Just a matter of when. Egress, getting out in emergencies, we're bottlenecked in District 3. We have to find different ways. We are working on that through SPI. They're assisting us. We're able to work with our fire departments, and at least that's something we're actively engaged in.
All right. Merita?
Senate Bill 1 has provided Calaveras County with the gas tax money that we pay, has provided us with 5 projects that I know of for county roads, 2 of which are in District 3, 3 projects on the state highway. We would not have those projects if it had not been for that gas tax revenue that we're paying. I'm a strong believer that somehow we need to find all available resources, and the funding from the gas tax, as painful as it is what will give us money to at least do culvert installations that will allow for chip overlay, things that we haven't been able to do. I think our road department does an outstanding job, and like probably any supervisor in the state of California, one of the big complaints we all get is about roads. We have, the taxpayers of the state of California have to pay. And it's sort of one of those times that Calaveras does not pay enough in gas tax revenue for what we get back. And it's the urban areas money that comes back to us, because all the money goes to the state of California prior to SB 1 would come back to counties, cities or counties, based on their road miles. We don't have that kind of revenue that we generate in this county. And I have to correct Michael, the SB 1 monies cannot be diverted under the state constitution. It can only be spent for roads, bridges, and mass transit.
Thanks, Merita. You both, in your opening remarks, talked about District 3 being part of the county. And what we've noticed as voters in Calaveras County over especially the past 2 or 3 years is that we have a Board of Supervisors that's more divided than connected, it seems. How do you feel that can be fixed? Merita?
I believe the current board is a little dysfunctional among themselves. I'm very reluctant to say anything because I want to be on the board in January. But I have worked over the years with some very challenging supervisors. And I think it can be done. I don't know what causes that, but I've seen some of the supervisors be rude to staff, be rude to the public, be rude to each other. It's the issue that matters, not the personality. And whether you like a supervisor or not, a colleague, is not the issue. You deal with what the issue is before you, what's on your agenda, you discuss it, you take your vote, and you move on. Most of the time, the vote, I'm sure, is 5-0, but it's those other 10%, 15% that get people in a tither. And sometimes you're the 1-4 or the 2-4. Once the board makes a decision, it's a board's decision. And I don't see any need for the animosity that seems to be addressed on the board today, because all the supervisors are passionate about what they feel, and I think things have gotten a little personal.
Michael?
Thanks, Michael. I would agree with Merita. The board is dysfunctional. It wasn't always like that, but in the last 3 years, it seems to have increased. You spoke about personal agendas. I think there's people on that board that are hanging in their personal agendas. I think they've lost sight of the good of the county. I think we have a situation where maybe a supervisor too hasn't learned how to be the supervisor yet. It took me a while to learn, and I want to thank Merita for your experience, because I used your tapes to learn how to be a supervisor. And there was a lot of good points in there, and there was a lot of bad points, Merita.
No.
Believe it or not. But I used those bad points to learn. I look at my term on the Board of Supervisors being from 2 different boards. I was the only surviving supervisor out of the last election cycle. 4 supervisors were replaced. And I would like to think I carried over a tradition of fairness and looking at things with a wide open view. I continue to do that. This November is going to set the stage for the history, learning from that history for the future. I feel we're on a pivotal point, and I think we really, really need to make some wise decisions. And that comes with the quality and the assets of a Board of Supervisors. In our prime, we actually replaced 12 of 18 supervisors in the county through attrition, through retirement, through other means. And I think we have a great staff. We have to maintain that greatness. We've gone into the 21st century in some of our procedures. We've upgraded our computer systems, but we still have a ways to go. We still do.
Okay. Now, both of you, we ran a little long, so instead of 2 minutes for your closing remarks, I'm going to ask you to hold it to about a minute, and I'm going to ask Michael to go first.
1 minute. Here we go, folks. Down and dirty. We've done things in the last 3 years that it took 15 years to screw up at times. Our work's not done. We need to continue our work and make this county better. To do that, tough decisions are going to have to be made. Sacrifices. But we cannot sacrifice the safety and the welfare of our county residents. My commitment to you is to continue that fight and do those things that need to be done for District 3 and the entire county. I want to thank you for your support, and I want to thank you for your vote.
Thank you, Michael. Merita.
No, I get the vote on November 6th. I am dedicated to this county and to the future of this county. I want to preserve the rural character. I want to support the systems that drive economic growth and a healthy community. I'm very proud of the people in District 3, all over the district, of all political spectrums, who've endorsed my candidacy. The people who live in our district now, and the people and the families that will be coming, Your vote will determine our future. I am your future. Please vote for me on November 6th.
All right, Calaveras County, now it's up to you. November 6th is the day you have to vote. I want to thank Michael Oliveira and Merita Callaway for being here.
Thank you.
And good luck in November, and we look forward to whoever is going to serve us in District 3 in the next 4 years.
So wait a minute, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So is the Calaveras Enterprise going to come out with an endorsement?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope. Nope, it's not. Pulling from another part of my life. And now I will say, Calaveras County, like I said, it's up to you. So go vote on November 6th. And until then, I'm Mike Taylor. Be good. Yeah.